Hello, well, I'm here today with Sammy Connell, the Conferences and Events Manager at NASUWT. So, Sammy, do you want to just give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you do, and then we'll talk a little bit about your most recent conference.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I work for NSWT, which is the Teachers Union. I head up the events division here, and we run anything from 40 to 60 events in the calendar year.
Wow, that's a lot of events, isn't it? Particularly when some of the size of the ones that you've just done at the ICC over at the Easter weekend, it's just huge, isn't it? So I know that that's just happened. That's sort of your annual largest conference, isn't it? So how many people go to that?
So yeah, the annual conference runs over Easter, and that can range from anything from 1,000 to 1,500 attendees.
And how many did you get this year?
So this year we had a little dip in our numbers as the previous year. So we just had just shy of 1,000.
It's amazing though, considering we're just coming out of the pandemic, isn't it? So
Yeah, no,
you must have been pleased.
we were really unsure about our numbers. Obviously, all of our members are teachers and they've been on the front line, and we know how precious Easter is for our teachers in terms of downtime. So we weren't quite sure how many numbers we were expecting. And the same for sort of our international guests. We have a huge range of international guests from around the world, and depended on their status and how they felt about coming to the UK, that was very much an unknown. So our sort of target was around 800. So we were really pleased to kind of exceed that.
Oh, fantastic. And you had some particular goals with this one, didn't you? To be more sustainable, to be more accessible, and to really focus on well-being. As you say, you sort of realise that teachers have been there on the front line, and you sort of needed to have some time for to recharge themselves over Easter holidays before exam season kicks in, I suppose, as well. So do you want to talk about some of those sort of key goals that you had?
Yeah, absolutely. We recognise that going virtual, created lots of benefits for the environment when we hosted virtual in 2021, and also for people being able to access the conference from home. And we definitely saw feedback from our members that whilst virtual, it played its part, they were very much looking forward to coming back and meeting again. So we just wanted to strike the balance between having a hybrid conference, bringing people back together, but also recognising that we can all be more sustainable. So sustainability sort of was at the heart of it, really, about how we as an organisation can contribute towards that. And I think, from the outset, we really recognised how paper heavy we were, how everything, our conference is motion based and has huge reams and reams of paper and annual reports that are like 40 pages long, and financial statements that are equally as long. And we would print all these documents and have them ready in delegate banks, as we all did. To recognise that just wasn't sustainable, and not only for the person, but also for the person kind of looking at that volume of materials around our conferences for 4 days. So we thought we needed to be a bit more creative, and what could we do that? And we focused very much on an app. I've used apps before at other organisations, and we very much knew that if we created an app that had all these materials within it, whilst there'll be a little bit of resistance at the beginning, people feeling that they haven't got the security blanket of those materials, but ultimately it could be a one-stop place for absolutely everything. Not only would that save sort of, the environment, but also it would reduce costs, but also it would increase sort of interaction before conference, during and after. So that was sort of our main goal, to create an app that would replace all of our materials, but also add so much more value.
Brilliant. And do you feel like that was achieved?
Absolutely. Like the app exceeded so many people's expectations. I think we've all used those apps over the years that haven't been quite as we wanted them to be. Have been a bit clunky, but we very much focused on having an app which was just for events, and we use Event, which many event professionals would have used, and we'd use their app at other conferences that they've been to. So we designed the app very much around the conference, what we wanted the conference to do, and it was very much like thinking, okay, what would we normally do? We would normally print this. We need to upload that to the app. We would normally have voting. We need to have a way of voting and evaluation via the app. So everything was featured into the app. And I guess for us, the kind of crucial elements was sort of planning the app. and mapping out exactly what we wanted the app to do and going through the whole of the event, and thinking, okay, we won't do that like that anymore, we'll add it to the app. There was lots of those conversations, and lots of conversations with our developer about, can we do this, can we do that, can we have this, can we have that, and they were very great at sort of accommodating that.
Brilliant. It's sort of looking at the delegate journey and what they need when, isn't it? And sort of mapping that all out as well. And I think you had some sessions beforehand to help people to make sure that they did understand the technology, and you had support available on site as well, didn't you, if people were getting into a mess with it at all?
Yeah, so we sort of recognise that technology is not, you know, it's not for everyone. Whilst our teachers are on the front line and technology is very much woven into the school life, you know, in your personal life, people may choose to use different devices and different technology and different sort of usability levels. So what we did in the initial outset is we did a big survey to our members to find out how they felt about a range of topics, really. It was very much about how they felt about returning back to events. You know, this was the first big event that we'd hosted. How was their feelings around that? What mitigations could we put in place to support them around COVID? What were they expecting? What were the kind of key goals that they were looking to accept? What were the key drivers to go to that event? But then we kind of broadened it out as we're looking to go paperless, and this is the sort of first communications that we'd had with our members to let them know that we were going down this route. And, you know, how did they feel about that? And over 70% said they felt comfortable or very comfortable with technology. 30% said that they felt uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. And we looked at, you know, would training support that? What else could we do to support that? And they gave us lots of ideas about things that we could do to support them with the technology. And we just followed up on that. So we kind of had this data from, I think it was 4,000 attendees who had recently attended our conferences, the people that were used to coming to our conference and people we'd expect to be coming to the annual conference. And we looked at how, you know, what expectations they had. And some people said that they would like a how-to guide. Some people said that they would like a video to watch. Some people said they would like actual training sessions before. Some people said they just wanted email support. Other people said they wanted on-site support. So we did absolutely all of those things. We just did it all. We just said, if you need the support,
no excuse.
we'll be here for you. So we just planned out and we did absolutely everything that was on their list. So we did the pre-conference support, we did the email support, we did the flyers, we did the pre-conference video how-to guide. When they got on site, we had a dedicated app support desk that was open from every hour that they were at conference, from the very beginning right to the very end. And we had our internal IT staff that supported that also had training on the app. We did a session on site for people how to get the best out of conference, and that was woven into the app. So we just felt that we'd given everyone as much support as we can with the app, and also just made sure that people, you know, could access it. But also we appreciated that not everyone had the right device. So we did have some devices on site that people could use, and if anyone broke their device, you know what it's like, you've dropped your laptop and the screen's broken, how are you going to access your documents? We had backup devices available on site for those that needed them.
Brilliant. So it seems like you had so many contingencies, and I think you got some of your stakeholders involved as well with the whole sustainability side and the go paperless, didn't you? I think you really involved your exhibitors and explained to them what you were trying to achieve. Did you have any pushback from them at all, and how did you take them on that journey with you?
So I think, yeah, from the very outset, our prospectus sort of outlined that we were looking to go paperless and be more sustainable. And this was one of our goals of the conference. And we would like them to come on our journey with them. And we encourage them to have conversations with us, you know, find out what, you know, each exhibitor was very different, had their own different aims, objectives, their own different products and services. And we wanted to go on a journey with them, how we could support them and best promote them at our conference. Some it was very easy to do. They'd already sort of started this journey. So they were very much, yes, we're with you on this journey, and can we have this featured in the app, and can we have that featured in the app? Others needed a bit more of a hands-on approach, sort of having those conversations about, we wouldn't like to see reams and reams of paper at our conference, and we would like to work with you to be more innovative about how your stand can look more attractive, or how, you know, we can use our digital services to support you. So we did kind of link up our exhibitors with our exhibitor contractor who provided all the AV, and they came together and kind of worked out a partnership about how they could, you know, utilize the technology that they had and how they could loan it, and we got them discounts and so forth. So I think there was probably not resistance, just a little bit of unknown about how to do that. I just felt like there was a little bit of okay, if I'm not going to bring all my leaflets and pamphlets, what else?
How am I going to do it?
What am I going to do? It was more about how else can I do that? And we were like, well, have you thought about doing a game? Have you thought about having a plasma screen with this rolling? Have you thought about a video? Have you thought about having iPads on stands? And you know, and the people, and we as our stand, national NASUWT stand, completely transformed how we would usually have our stand. We would be having usually full of reams and reams of publications, but we didn't. We had this massive, huge 55-inch phone in the center of our stand that talked people through the app, talk people through the website, through all of our campaigns, linked to all of our materials that our members would need. And then we had iPads dotted around on stands that would also be engaged in different content and sort of different services. But then we had a huge screen as well that played the video on there, and sort of, so we definitely utilized it, and we kind of wanted our stand to be like the central point of the exhibition, but also our complementary stakeholders to support us on that. I think it's important to say that whilst we focused on our exhibitors being papers, we also focus on all of our contractors. So that is everything from the creche provider to the production company to the ICC in Birmingham themselves, who are also very sustainable and very supportive of our what we wanted to do and how we wanted to do it. And they're also on a journey which we were pleased to join them on. So I think it was sort of
all stakeholders.
It was all stakeholders, yes. We didn't just home in on the one sort of group.
Yeah. And were there any obstacles that you just couldn't, you know, however much you tried, you just couldn't get over? Were there any sort of ones that you just thought, oh, I'm just going to have to do paper for that one?
Yeah. Yes, and it was with our conference. It's a sort of a conference around rules, around motions, about voting. So it's very much about associations coming together, a collective group of number of associations that would have a number of members associated to that, and they have sort of weights in sort of voting. So we would normally, how they would normally do that, they would get a card vote. It's literally a piece of card with if you want to vote for or against. That's quite straightforward. If you just do for and against, an association gets so many sort of votes. However, the association can split their vote. So if you had 50 from Birmingham Association and 25 of those members said I'm going to vote for and 25 are going to say against, we didn't have the mechanisms via the technology that we could find that would enable us to do that fairly and more accurately. So and the hall, because we'd separated the hall out and split the hall into different areas so we could have social distancing, and obviously we were paperless, so we wanted the desks to be down so people could utilize the desk. So we just couldn't make the voting for a card vote happen. Card votes don't happen very often in our conferences. It didn't happen, but we had to plan for it, and we had to print little cards, not many of them, but we did it on recycled paper. We did it back to back, and we made sure that the paper would be recycled in the first place. But it was something that we just haven't cracked yet, and it is something that we are looking at for next year when we're in Glasgow, about how we will do a card vote and how we could do that without it being physical card, physical paper. But yeah, it is a sticking point. But I think I've been fair to say that when we started this journey, it is a journey. It's not, we're not going to get it right every time, and we're not going to completely wipe out all practices that we've had for 30 years in one foul swoop. But also, I think it was fair to say that our delegates, we didn't want them to be completely overwhelmed by the technology. We wanted them to feel that it was a journey that we're going on. So there was lots of functionality with the app that we didn't have this year. We didn't have certain functionality because we felt like it was going to overcomplicate what was already a quite complicated thing for sort of new members to sort of grasp. So we are sort of already now building on the app, thinking about when we go to Glasgow next year for our next annual conference, what functionality we could introduce that we kind of didn't introduce this year because we just wanted to get the basics right and just sort of build on.
Yeah, you don't want to overcomplicate it in the first instance and then alienate everybody, do you? Or for it to come crashing down and everybody say, you see, we should have had paper. And I think one of the key elements that you had was very much a focus on well-being, whether that was sort of zoning, recharge zones, food, and how you did that. I think even your celebration event was sort of afternoon tea rather than a boozy late night affair, wasn't it? So how did you decide what to include in the conference for that, and how did your delegates engage with it, and is it something that you would continue to do?
Yeah, so we've always had, as many organisers do, wellbeing features within our conference. We know how important that is. We know how delegates and members need that downtime in between conference time. So it's always been a part of our conference. That's not new in itself. We would sometimes do hand massages, head massages pre-COVID, and that would be something that we would definitely be sort of booked out for, and people would do that within the exhibition. And we wanted to build on that. And I personally am really into wellbeing, especially at events, and sort of having that wellness approach throughout. So we decided that we would have dedicated areas within the exhibition where our members and delegates could go, where they could either, you know, recharge their batteries, recharge their phones, sort of defuse from the main environment, and sort of have that moment to themselves. So we had what we called chill and recharge areas, and they were in the exhibition, and they had different scents within them. They had lots of different literature around wellness, around well-being, but also around the trade union movement. People in those halls are trade unionists, and we have loads of amazing literature about inspiring trade unions that we wanted to share with our members. So we had all this relevant materials around, and it even involved adult colouring books and games and different activities to do, and they were all sort of in different areas, in zones, what we called them. And then we wanted to host wellness sessions. And in 2021, we did virtual wellness sessions. So we did a range of 6 of them. They were online. They were short tutorials from a wellness coordinator that were like standing yoga, Tai Chi, breathing exercises. And we did those, and via our virtual conference, we would link through them throughout the day, and people did them at home. So, but we wanted to bring that to life. So we were like, we're going to bring that into the exhibition. So we're going to host wellness sessions in the exhibition. And we know that, you know, this needs to be a range of sort of different topics for different people. Not everyone's going to engage with yoga or Bhangra dance. So we did music therapy, we did Bhangra dance, Tai Chi, a wellness and mindful session, standing yoga. So there was a range of them that happened in the breaks, and we hired in one of those huge teepees with loads of fairy lights, and it was a real centre stage moment. We had a little stage in there, and we had all of the sessions rotating throughout the different days, and we didn't know how popular it would be. Because these things that you do can be quite personal to you, or you might want to do them in your gym, not with your colleagues, or you do them at home, or but they were ram-packed. They were like, every time we walked around to sort of see how the queue was forming, you couldn't get any more in. People were having to like come out from the teepee and do it on the flat floor. But it was definitely 15-20 minutes of some wellness, some light entertainment, and a bit of, you know, kind of having some downtime. But they were really popular to the point where we could have run 6 more. And we had great feedback. People from all ages and abilities. We made sure that it was all accessible, and that also they were all kind of in theming with our wellness. But yeah, we've had great feedback from them to say that actually that was like a real highlight of the exhibition, of having to learn Bhangra dance for 15-20 minutes really brought lots of joy, or to do some music therapy and to just switch off from what's happening around you, really brought a lot of sort of happy vibes for people just loved it.
Oh, fantastic. And how did you find those suppliers? I mean, that adds to your to-do list as well, doesn't it? Just trying to find all of them and get them to understand sort of who the delegates might be and what they try to achieve, and how quickly you need it to happen as well, really, if you've got 20-minute slots. Yeah. That must have been quite difficult for you.
It was in a sense, but we were really clear that we wanted to use local suppliers. We always support the local area when we move around cities, and we wanted to support local suppliers, and we're based in Birmingham, so I think we were quite fortunate that we had some contacts already, and then we were able to, within those contacts, find further contacts. It was sort of that question of, oh, you do standing yoga, do you know anyone that does Tai Chi? Oh yes, I do actually. So there was a lot of that happening, and we worked with Amazon Health in Birmingham. They're Birmingham-based sort of wellness centre, and they were very much at the centre of sort of sourcing the right contacts and helping us support our aims and what we needed to do. And they each had an exhibitor profile where people could find out more about them before they came to the session. Afterwards, they all had links to their own sort of website and their own content, but also we were very mindful that we wanted it to be create a broad range of things that would hopefully attract different people to different things. But we also had our very first VR gaming experience as well. So we appreciated that would be one element of wellbeing, sort of going down that route, but that's not for everyone. And we appreciate that people might want to try something else. So we had our own VR station that we had a they're called Bright Company in Birmingham. They came in and they it was marvelous. They had this VR gaming where you put the headset on, you have different games for each day, walk the plank, and sort of more kind of intimate ones. We've kind of been in caves, and you have to do these competition, but teachers are really competitive, so they absolutely loved it, and it was great, that game that you could do on your own, but your peers could watch you on the screen what you were doing. So that caused again, 5-10 minutes of their lunch break, but really well received, and we ended up having cues for that. So again, we wasn't sure how that would play out, but people came off laughing, joking, feeling a little bit lighthearted. So we were really pleased with how the VR game was received as well.
Oh, fantastic. And how did you get people to not then only come to the wellbeing and their lunch? How did you get them to come around the exhibition? Because that can be the challenge, can't it, for your sponsors and your exhibitors? If you're doing so much else as an alternative, then maybe they don't get the footfall.
Yeah, I think footfall's so difficult in an exhibition, trying to get that evenly spread and making sure that people have the right access. What we did was we put the wellness sort of TP at the very back of the hall, so they had to walk past all of the stands to get to the TP. Equally, it was a paperless conference. We had chill and recharge areas, and within those areas we had different types of charging sort of devices. So you had the freestanding ones with the posers, the lower tables with the charging banks, the phone lockers, and we darted those around our key points. So we knew that people would have to go and charge their devices. They've been there all day, and they would have to go past the exhibitors. And again, with the catering points, we purposely put some toward the back of the hall to people, drive people through. And I think we also tried something new this year. We appreciated that networking was a key driver from our data that told us that people just couldn't wait to get back together and to network and to meet with colleagues that they haven't seen for such a long time in any industry, but especially in the teachers. They definitely felt like there was that lack of coming together. So we wanted to create little hubs for people. So we had massive amounts of different style sort of networking areas. So we had the round tables, the structured round tables. We went for the small poser tables, the networking, the high tables, the low tables, the sofas, the soft furnishing. But also we introduced NASUWT pods. Now NASUWT pods are sort of individual pods that kind of are on wheels, and they're kind of like a mini meeting room, sort of chairs either side, quite comfy chairs, a table in the middle, and it's got kind of like a little roof on it, but it's open, and it really like blocks out a lot of sound, and it kind of creates a little hub for you to have, even if you want to do a bit of work, a bit of email yourself, or you want to have a one-to-one conversation. And we worked with NASUWT pods. We've got 8 of those brought into our exhibition and darted them around all everywhere. Again, they had plug sockets and power sockets and sort of really comfortable sort of environment. But they were like, every time we walked past one, there wasn't one free. We could have had 18 of them, and it still would have been, because they were definitely something that we would look to use again. Because sometimes, as you know, you can be in a busy hall when you come into the exhibition, and it's also very busy, and sometimes that can be a little bit overwhelming for people, or people just want that 10 minutes, half an hour break. And these were great for sort of taking people outside, sort of outside of that noise, but still inside of all the hub and all of they could see and see everything, but they weren't kind of in the cluster of it all. So they were really popular, and again really helped with sort of networking and people wanting to come into the exhibition because it was a driver.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like you covered all bases really, and you're off to Glasgow next year, aren't you? And it sounds like you're planning for that already. If I could give you a magic wand and say you could change one thing or improve one thing, what would you use your magic wand on?
That's really difficult. I think what I would really like is, we did streaming of the event. We appreciated that people at home that couldn't come for childcare, care and responsibilities, just couldn't be away or didn't want to commit to the 4 days, and we did some streaming. So we streamed all of the public. We have public and private sessions. If you're a member, you can access them all, but if you're not, you can just attend the public. So we streamed the whole public sessions out to the big wide web, and it was accessed everywhere. However, because of how expensive hybrid is and how it is like organising 2002 events, we were only able to do sort of live streaming. We only just streamed, and there was no interaction. So we didn't have anyone coming in to speak like we did when we did it virtual. We didn't have any voting that happened virtually. I think if I had a magic wand, I'd just like, I guess I would like to go back and sort of redo that and have looking at sort of having people being able to engage with the content, but be able to speak, be able to, you know, have a chat function, and also for those delegates inside to be able to do that. I think that would be my magic wand. And I think also voting is very difficult and very expensive to do when you're doing that in terms of voting, in terms of sort of it being for a democratic conference, and not just kind of a poll sort of setting. That is also something we want to include. But we did play around with hybrid. We had this international roundtable, which is for all our international partners from all over the world, and we hosted an international truly hybrid event as a fringe meeting, and we had people in the room that were from all over the world and people online from all over the world coming in, and you could see and hear one another, and there were spectators, and it was absolutely, it was mind-blowingly great. It was just fantastic. Like it was really awesome hybrid event, but it was just our little tester, kind of our toe in the water, but it's so much goes into that, so much. It was only an hour and a half meeting, but so much went into that, making the logistics and all of the acoustics and all of the AV kind of work for people in the room. And also we had, you know, lots of interpreters as well, and different nationalities, and we had to have interpreters, and all of those factored in, and all of those things. It was great logistics, great for me as an event manager to have a go at that. And I think I would like, if I had a magic wand, I'd like to see a bit more of that, but also just keeping the balances working with the costs associated to when you're doing hybrid and in person. It's like, it can be at times like double the budget of what you'd normally have. So that would be my tiny wish list, if you can do anything on that, Heather.
Okay, well, we'll give it a go, Sammy, but thank you very much. It's just been fascinating listening to everything that you've achieved, and you know, I'm sure Glasgow will go on and be bigger and even better, won't it? But I think it's just that sort of continual pushing for improvement, isn't it? Listening to what your delegates want, and sort of even giving them stuff that they hadn't even thought of that they wanted, but that they really obviously appreciated. So well done on an amazing conference, and thanks for your time.
No, thanks, Heather. It's been a pleasure.